Today, we are diving into one of the wildest, most dramatic turnarounds in all of military history, the Battle of Marengo. And look, this isn't just a story about tactics and cannons, it's really about political survival. Napoleon Bonaparte had just become the first consul of France, and his grip on power was, well, let's just say it was fragile. He desperately needed a big, decisive win to prove he was the real deal. What he got instead was a battle that almost completely destroyed him. Because that right there is the million-dollar question of Marengo. By every single metric, Napoleon was soundly beaten. His army was broken, it was in full retreat. So how on earth did he manage to pull an impossible victory from the absolute jaws of defeat? Well, let's get into it. All right, so let's set the scene. It's June 13th, 1800. Napoleon has just done something nobody thought possible. He marched his entire army over the Alps to surprise the Austrians in Italy. In his mind, he's got them cornered. He thinks he's the hunter, setting this huge net to make sure they can't get away. The Austrians, they're his prey. Or so he thinks. And this is where things get pretty ironic. Napoleon was so convinced the Austrians were running away that he started sending out large chunks of his army to block their escape routes. But he had read the situation completely wrong. The Austrian commander, General Melas, he wasn't retreating at all. He'd done the exact opposite. He concentrated his entire force for one massive surprise attack. And this, right here, was the direct result of Napoleon's mistake. By spreading his army out, he left himself with only about 22,000 men to face an Austrian army of 30,000. So you see, Napoleon thought he was setting the perfect trap, but he had just marched his own army straight into one. Oh, and it gets worse, a lot worse. It wasn't just that the French were outnumbered. The Austrians were also way better equipped for this particular fight. They had tons of cavalry for charging on the open plain and a massive advantage in artillery to just pulverize the French lines from a safe distance. The stage was absolutely set for a French disaster. So, picture this. It's the morning of June 14th. The sun comes up, and the French are totally oblivious. They have no idea they're about to get hit by the full weight of the entire Austrian army. This wasn't going to be a battle of clever maneuvers anymore. This was about to become a desperate fight for survival. The attack kicks off at 8 a.m. And you gotta give it to the French, they put up a heroic defense at first. They held a small stream, beating back wave after wave of Austrian attacks for hours. But the pressure was just relentless. By noon, with more and more Austrian troops and cannons joining the fight, the French lines started to buckle. The numbers here really tell the whole story. By midday, the French troops who'd been fighting all morning were down to just 16,000 exhausted men. And get this, they had 16 cannons left. They were facing 30,000 Austrians with 92 cannons. The situation was beyond critical. I mean, you can only hold out against odds like that for so long. Ammunition was running out, the Austrians were starting to get around their sides, and the French line just shattered. The soldiers still standing were forced into a desperate retreat, just trying not to get completely wiped out. Napoleon finally gets to the battlefield, and he sees what's happening. He has one, and only one, fresh unit left to throw in, his personal bodyguard, the super-elite Consular Guard. He calls them his Granite Redoubt, and sends these 900 men straight into the chaos to buy a little more time for his army to escape. It was an unbelievably heroic stand, but in the end, it was futile. Facing thousands of Austrians, the Guard held on for as long as they could, but eventually they were surrounded and broken, suffering over 50% casualties. At this point, Napoleon has played his last card, and he's lost. The battle is over. So now the French army is in a full-blown retreat, getting hammered by Austrian cannons. The Austrian commander, General Melas, is so sure he's won that he actually leaves the field to go write his victory report. But the fortunes of war, they're about to turn in the most unbelievable way you can imagine. See, earlier that day, when Napoleon first realized the danger, he had scribbled this frantic message to General Desaix, the very guy he'd sent away looking for an enemy that wasn't there. You can just feel the desperation in his words. This was his one single glimmer of hope. And then, like a miracle, Desaix arrives. At 5 p.m., just as the French army is about to completely collapse, Desaix shows up with his 5,000 fresh soldiers. The news spreads through the beaten-down, retreating ranks like an electric shock. In an instant, hope is back. Napoleon, his own energy totally restored, seizes this moment. He rallies his exhausted troops with these famous words, basically telling them, the retreat is over, we're not done yet. He is about to gamble absolutely everything on one last desperate counterattack. And now we get to the incredible climax of the whole battle. The Austrians, they think they've already won. They're advancing kind of casually, disorganized. They have absolutely no idea what is about to hit them. Napoleon unleashes this perfectly timed, coordinated assault. First, General Marmont gathers every single cannon the French have left, all 18 of them, and just blasts the front of the Austrian column. Then, Desaix's fresh infantry suddenly charges out from behind some vineyards, and at that exact same moment, General Kellerman smashes his 400 heavy cavalry right into the Austrians' exposed side. The impact is just devastating. Tragically, General Desaix, the hero of the hour, is shot and killed right at the start of the charge. But his men, screaming for revenge, just surge forward. Then an Austrian ammunition wagon gets hit and explodes, adding to the absolute terror and confusion. In just a matter of minutes, the confident Austrian army turns into a panicked mob. The collapse is total. The French capture 2,000 prisoners, including General Zach himself, the guy who had taken over command. In the blink of an eye, the Austrians haven't just lost the battle, their entire command structure has been wiped out. So, in the space of about half an hour, a catastrophic French defeat was transformed into a stunning, unbelievable victory. But this victory came at a terrible price, and it would have absolutely monumental consequences. Yeah, this was an exceptionally bloody day. The French lost about a quarter of their men, and the Austrians lost nearly a third of their entire army. It was a victory, for sure, but it was paid for with thousands and thousands of lives. And for Napoleon, the whole thing was deeply personal and bittersweet. He was genuinely devastated by the death of his close friend and his most capable general, Desaix. This quote just shows you that even in this moment of incredible triumph, he felt that loss profoundly. A completely shaken General Melis had no choice but to ask for a ceasefire. In exchange for letting his battered army go home, he agreed to evacuate all of northern Italy. So militarily, Napoleon had won the region back. But politically, the news of this unbelievable last-minute victory raced back to Paris, silencing all his rivals and cementing his power as first consul. Which brings us to the final question, right? Was Marengo a testament to Napoleon's genius, his incredible resilience, and his ability to see an opportunity in the middle of chaos? Or was it just a case of unbelievable, dumb luck, being saved by a guy he had mistakenly sent away in the first place? It was the victory he needed more than any other, but exactly how he got it? Well, that's still debated to this very day.